Hi guys, and welcome back to Marketing the Madness, where you're dialing in to some of our special episodes where we were recording live on stage at Marketing the Madness Live at the Drum back in October. And I have got another corker of an episode for you. So without further ado, let's go and meet our next guest. So guys, I'm going to quiz you all on the future of retail. As someone who is quite the shopaholic, obsessed specifically with beauty and fashion and spending way too much money on it. Very excited to host this panel with you all. I really want to, I feel like we're at an interesting inflection point because AI technology is totally changing how we shop, how we behave, how we find the products and the things that we want to buy, which is obviously having quite a big impact on how you guys show up as brands, how you organize your websites, how you market yourselves, advertise yourselves. So I've got lots and lots of questions, but the first one that I'm going to kind of delve into. Right. So in fact, I don't know what's happened to my briefing document. Actually, it's gone a bit AWOL. So I'm actually going to totally ditch it. What I'm interested in understanding is, with AI and technology kind of changing everything, how do we design experiences for the audience that for your customers that actually engages them? So I think for me, like how I find products now, the experience that I take is very different. Like most of us, probably we shop via, I buy most things probably on Instagram. But how do you make sure, and Simon, I'm going to come to you first, how do you make sure that you're designing experience that is actually right for today's, I can't even talk, for today's consumer?
So I think the main thing to think about is that we don't know it all. So I think the biggest challenge that we've had, and previously we've always gone, we know how people want to shop a website. We know how people want to walk around a store. We actually don't know. I was actually having a chat, this is a bit random, but I was having a chat with my team yesterday about 6-7, and none of them had heard about it because they don't have children old enough to be obsessed with 6-7. And I don't know whether anyone here knows that, so it's
what is 6-7 first up for those that are uneducated?
It doesn't actually mean anything, but it's just a meme that's really taken off in the sort of 13 to 18-year-olds, they're just looking out.
I'm looking at my daughter,
where a 6-7 comes up
in the audience. Just going to pick on her because she's 17. Lola, do you know what the 6-7 is?
So it's an example. The reason why I'm giving it is it's an example. If you showed that on your website, there would be a community of people who would obsess about it, and they would scream about it, and they would think it is amazing. And there's a whole world of people who have no clue what anyone's talking about. It's the same with language as well at the moment. I don't understand half of what my children say anymore, especially when they text me. So You need to be ready to be able to be discoverable by anything, I guess is where I'm coming from. Don't try and predict how people are going to find you. Let things find you. So the world of data, the world of integration, the world of discoverability is more important than ever, almost more important than the customer experience, which is probably sacrosanct in this room. But, because we don't know what the ideal customer experience is anymore. So I think that's the era of uncertainty, I guess, that we're in at the moment.
I was going to say, I'm going to come to Lynn next on this. So, again, from a, I would say, I don't know, would I call you a heritage brand? Would you call yourselves a heritage brand? I would say Dr. Martens feels like it's been cool forever. You've had a bit of a revival, but it was a really cool brand when I was younger. How do you guys stay on top of customer experience and making sure, certainly from your point of view in the digital department, that you're designing the website and everything that you do online in the right way for your customers?
Yeah, look, I think it's can everyone hear me? Yeah. I think it's a really good question. And I think first and foremost, you've got to understand your consumers. You've got to understand in terms of what the data is telling you. And I've got a bit of a bugbear whenever we talk about data. When you're talking about people, they're people with fears and hopes and dreams, and they've had a shit journey in on the train in the morning, and we've decided to launch a sale at 8:15 when you're trying to get Wi-Fi, and you can't do that on the train, and it's pissing you off, right? So I think it's really about understanding, and then to your point around how do you serve up content that's relevant to those consumers at the right time, at that moment when they're deciding to shop or they didn't know they wanted it, and now you served up something that has really appealed to them. So I think it's double. I think there's not just, as your point, Simon, there's not just one size fits all. Definitely not. And if you try and do that, then we've kind of gone back 5-10 years, right, where it's that pray and spray mentality, which I think everyone just doesn't want anymore, and they're bored of it. I would just like to say, though, I'm blonde in that picture. I'm deciding why I might go back.
I know, I love it.
Just if we can take a straw poll at the end, I'd be really grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll do a poll. We'll do hands up and down at the end. You look lovely brunette as well, by the way.
Thank you.
So when we had our pre-chat yesterday, Fabrice, we spoke about something which I thought was incredibly interesting, and in fact played out last night or this morning. Olivia in my team, I'm not sure if she's in the room, but there was a H&M sale on yesterday. Anyone else a H&M loyalty member? Yeah, me. So they often do these like 15% flash sales, and we were all like on the train like, oh no, only an hour left of the 15% off on H&M, like quickly. But it played into something that we spoke about, which I think is so true, is now loyalty is... it's almost dead. Like certainly the younger generation, not loyalty's dead. Anyone who works in loyalty, I'm really sorry, I've just said that. The brand loyalty isn't dead, but I think the younger generation are less bothered about brand loyalty and more bothered about the cool thing or who's going to offer them the best price. So again, for a brand like Boots and many of the brands that you've worked for, Selfridges, Sainsbury's, how on earth in this modern world do we keep our consumers loyal? Or can we?
Wow, I get the hardest question.
So
Thank you. I don't think loyalty is dead, by the way. I have to say that. I work for the company that invented
the
Ad Card.
Advantage card, yeah.
Yes. However, I think, and kind of harking back to the last question as well, I think it's just a really difficult time because we're at this weird inflection point, which may be, I don't know, I wasn't around in like the early 1900s, but maybe they were in a similar place where they were going, do we still need these loom makers? Don't know what they do. You know, I feel like we're in this weird place where a lot of our customers are still, you know, especially a brand like Boots, we're a health and beauty retailer at the end of the day, not just beauty. We probably skew a little bit older. We actually skew across several demographics and audiences. So again, that question of, how do you make sure that you're not alienating your kind of core demographic whilst you're also trying to understand how you serve the newer generations who maybe are less loyal or see loyalty in a different way, where it'll be, you know, that brand on TikTok, which is cool right now. And then next time it'll be the next brand on TikTok. And they're not necessarily thinking, who am I buying it for? I want to collect points or offers on my card. You know, it literally is about that moment that's important to them. But you've still got demographics that are not thinking like that. So how do you make sure you're not completely alienating them either? And similarly, I'd say for a lot of retailers, it's, yes, you're right. Simon, I agree. Like, we used to think we knew how to design a journey. It was all fairly linear, even when we got into omnichannel. Now it's like, we've got to do that, but we also have to think about, is my website machine readable so the bots can find it, so the LLMs can, you know, recommend it. Like, there's all these different things that I don't think we've quite figured out yet. So we've got to keep trying to make sure we don't alienate any of our customers. And I think loyalty is in a similar place. Hopefully that makes sense.
Just to build on that, though, I think the other thing, the challenge that we've got is around that content machine to fuel all of these different journeys. And I think that's a piece that a lot of people underestimate. You need a lot of content, right? When you're mapping out all of these different consumer journeys based on all of the different segments, you've got to be able to have something that fuels that in terms of content. Because if you just serve up the same content to the different journeys and hope it's just going to resonate with maybe a different copy, it isn't going to work.
I would say that we're talking about the sort of outsides of retail, I guess, because at its core, retail is still fairly simple. You started off the whole question with anyone else a shopper of H&M? Yes, you're going there because of the 15% off, but you're obviously a loyal shopper of H&M. So people want consistency. They want good product, and they want to trust a brand. So there is still a big sort of foundation of loyalty from that perspective. So that is what backs everything up. So it's very easy to lose loyalty if you lose that. And yes, all the little gimmicks and the different ways you can get hooks and things like that, that's probably what we're talking about more about loyalty, rather than, you know, fundamentally, if you have a good product, you understand who your customer is, and you're serving up a product that customer wants, that is that is true loyalty. So I don't think that's dead in any way. And actually, if anything, that's growing. You know, the growing fan base of Vinted is a good example of that. People aren't necessarily shopping on loads and loads of different websites. They have a favorite website that they go to because they trust it. So I think the basics are still more important than anything else. But as Sarah just said, it's incredibly complicated out there and competitive. So people are looking for that edge, and that's the bit that's difficult.
Well, we now have AI to help us find that edge, apparently. So there's a lot happening when it comes to AI. In fact, just a week or two ago, I learnt, but then Simon told me that maybe it's not quite live in the UK yet, that Shopify have now had an integration with OpenAI and ChatGPT where you can shop in platform. So you don't actually have to leave ChatGPT. They will serve you and you can buy in the ChatGPT platform. So clearly the LLMs, AI are changing how we shop, and it's going to, we are going to be using agents to find us the things that we want. They're going to be helping us find the best price, the best product, the right color. I found it quite easy to find this on Vinted and it totally matches my brand colors. So clearly I didn't need AI. But I do think AI is here. It's here to stay. It's making customer journeys easier. We're talking in more natural language. I've got a couple of questions on AI, and I know I've only got about 5 minutes left and we're already over. But first question, how are you guys having to change internally? You're all working on the technologies and the digital side of the brand journeys that within your businesses. What are you guys focused on right now because of AI coming in and changing the game? Go on, Fabrice. Anyone answer?
I mean, we're going through a big digital transformation as it is. And I suppose it's a really interesting time to be doing this because you're kind of trying to rebuild today's technology, knowing that it might be completely different in 3 years' time. So the things we're trying to do to prepare for that are things like, I think your data becomes really important. I sort of agree with the content point, but would also challenge that I guess it's how you define content. Because for us, it's about, is that content going to be consumed on the Boots website or the app, or actually is it going to be disintermediated via a chatbot or an LLM or something else, which again then speaks to, is it about making sure that data is readable and findable? And that's a slightly different problem. I think you've also got the benefits of AI that we're starting to play around with, like, can you serve content up, the same content in different ways to different customers? Because you can suddenly do a lot of these things on the fly, whereas before you would have needed teams to create like different, detail pages or listers. You can technically now, and I've seen demos of this, we're not using this yet, but I could write the perfume description to be, for Simon's demographic, and I could write the same exact product for Lynn's, right? And it, like, again, is that going to help? Those are the kinds of things that I think the technology is going to allow us to do and to test. So we're playing around with these things. I wouldn't say that we're, kind of at the forefront of any of it. I think we're still trying to figure it out. But I guess those are the types of things we're thinking about.
I think, and going even further on what Fabrice is saying, you can now create specific product listing pages specifically for a category that's just been searched in that moment, and that obviously improves your SEO. But the acronym of the moment, AEO, I think it helps with that as well. And the problem is no one really there's no real right answer with agentic AI, especially at the moment. Everyone's testing it and experimenting it, and I think that's all you can do at the moment. You could experiment, but you do need to be clear on the guardrails. You need to be clear on how important is it in your company? What are you going to use it for? Because it is dangerous. You can potentially start to be disingenuous to your customers or throw up things that you weren't intending to throw up. So I think you need to be conscious about what you're uncovering. So I think there's an education piece for your shareholders or stakeholders, and an education piece for your content creators and all of the people who could influence it in some way.
Amazing. Now, my last question before we head to go and be, sugared by Krispy Kremes and have some matcha from Perfect Head. the things that we've spoken about today, a lot is changing. AI has transformed and technology is going to continue to transform how the retail market operates. One big thing from each of you for 2026 that retailers or brands as a whole should be focused on. Sorry, that's a huge question, and I feel a bit mean.
And I think I must have missed that one on the call. Yes, so that one has dropped off. Thanks.
ChatGPT did give it to me as a question though from the back of our call. So sorry, guys.
I did ChatGPT tell you it was a brilliant
question. It did, yeah.
I can answer to buy you some time. So I think from my perspective, it is repeating what I've just said. I think it is focusing on making sure that you are okay for your data or your information to be discoverable. So making sure it's clean enough, you've locked away stuff that you do not want to be discoverable, and you've opened up the stuff that you do want to be discoverable, because whether you like it or not, it probably is going to be. So it's inevitable that it's going to be more and more, the number of hits that we're hitting on our site and everything, it is increasing exponentially. So it is inevitable. So be ready for it.
I would say one of the words that we kind of talk about a lot these days at work, because of some of the agencies we work with, is I think this shift from things like SEO to share of model is an interesting concept, I think, where it's like, ultimately there are 4 or 5 models that will end up ruling the world, right? Because it's like big tech companies that own these LLMs. If you're not making sure that your content is speaking to those models and they have different ways of picking up terms and things, you might be excluded from those recommendations that an agentic agent might be making. So I think those are all the kinds of things that we're talking about, and I think will start to get bigger in 2026.
And I appreciate the time. Thank you. I've had a thought. I think there's definitely a piece around how we humanize AI as opposed to just, here's a piece of AI tech, we're just going to put it in, we'll let it do its thing and let it run. I think it's around how you humanize within AI, because we've all had experiences where you've had a terrible chatbot, moment with a brand and something's gone wrong, you're trying to sort it out, and you're like having a conversation with a brick wall, right? It's not great. And your then impression is at that brand, as opposed to that it's a chatbot and it's a piece of tech that's just not delivering what it needs to do. So definitely for me, humanizing within AI.
Yeah, but being careful about how you use these models as well, because it can sometimes do more damage than good. And I'm sure we've all used some kind of AI model that's given us the wrong answer, and you have to challenge it, and we can't fully trust it yet. So yeah, it is interesting though, isn't it? Like if you see I'm a ChatGPT girl. When you're doing your search on ChatGPT, it does show you the logos of where it's going to search. So Reddit, or it's not necessarily reading the websites anymore. So thinking about where you go outside of your own owned channels, I think is interesting as well. So I hope you loved that episode just as much as I did. Honestly, there has been so much gold content from Marketing in the Madness Live, and you are not going to want to miss out. So if you haven't already, wherever you're listening, please make sure you subscribe. And if you want to join us live at the next event, which is coming up in March 2026, go and connect with me on LinkedIn, Katie Street, and make sure you follow the Marketing in the Madness Live page, and I will make sure that you get one of our VIP invites.